Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Nursing Uncharted. I'm your host, Anne. Today, I really wanted to talk about the top 3 lessons that I've learned as a nurse. Lately, I have been getting the question, I don't know why, but people have been asking me what my passion is in life and what goals I have in my own personal life. And my answer is always being a nurse. But I never thought someone would say, well, why? So why is nursing your passion? And why does that fill my cup? Why is that my purpose in life? So it made me kind of take a step back and realize, why is being a nurse my passion? And what does that look like? And how did I get here? How did I get from a shy, introverted girl to now this extrovert here on this podcast? And, even an extrovert in my everyday life, not just my career. So I spent some time and I thought about, what my journey looked like and what I could maybe share with a newer nurse or someone out there kind of struggling to get on their feet and figure out what their purpose is or why they're a nurse. So I was thinking about when I was younger, talking about the introvert that I would go out for my birthday every year with my parents. And as soon as they come to the table, to sing me happy birthday, I would hide. I would hide under the table and cry. And I think back to how was I that person? And when I tell people that story, they're like, no way. Because when people meet me now, I want everyone to be happy and have a good time and just be present and enjoy their life. And I'm that same way at the bedside as a nurse. So I think that sharing these top 3, there's obviously more, but top 3 lessons with you guys could maybe bring some insight to your journey. So the first one is communication. The second one is accountability. And the last one is empathy and compassion. All 3 are important and all 3 bring a different insight to my nursing career, but also my life in general and how I live my day to day. I think back to nursing school and how I was terrified on my first day of clinical, walking into a patient room. What do I do? What do I say? What if I make a mistake? What do I say if they're crying? How do I act if the patient's upset or the family's upset? Not even crying, but just angry. How do I handle all 3 of those situations? And I broke that down, and compassion, accountability, and empathy were the 3 components to all of those things. So the first one is communication. Communication can be hard, especially if you're meeting someone for the first time or there's a language barrier. There's always going to be that hurdle that you have to get over with that first conversation that you have with a patient. Or in my circumstance, I'm a NICU nurse, so my communication is all with the patient's family, the mother, the father, the grandparents, but also, going a little bit further with that, communication amongst your peers and with the physicians, the nurse practitioners, the PAs, everyone else that you work with on the daily basis. So, learning how to have effective communication is probably one of the things in every single job, in every single day of your life that is important. So having the ability to read the situation and kind of read the person that you're going to have that conversation with before engaging and starting that conversation. So you want to make sure that you're respectful, you're clear, your communication is effective, and you stay calm in, a lot of stressful situations. Majority of nursing is high stress. We deal with having to have the conversations with people that are not always the conversations that they want to hear. So, we can walk in and say hi with a smile on our face and, oh, your baby had a great night and this happened. But just recently, I am primarying these twins at my current job. And I come back after a few days off, and the one twin was supposed to go home. And that was the lead up for the last couple of days. And I come in and I wasn't comfortable with what I saw the baby doing. And I just didn't think it was safe for them to go home. So it was time for bedside rounds. And, they were just real quick to be like, okay, this one's going home and blah, 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 blah. And I had to step in. So I had to communicate first with the medical team and say, hey, I just want to review what happened, what I saw, and then communicate, I don't feel safe with that situation of them going home. And, after clearly and effectively communicating that to the medical team and having the documentation to show that, the next step of that is the family walks in 5 minutes later, all excited to take their baby home. And, of course, it's not my place as a nurse to have that initial conversation, but a lot of times the doctor is busy, they're with another patient. So I have to think about how I can communicate that decision to the family that's not something they want to hear. So, and this is something that you're going to learn as time goes on. The conversations and the communication are going to be different, but I think it's really important when it comes to the difficult conversations that you're going to have and also the stressful situations that you may be in. Knowing what you believe, your stance on the situation, having the data to back that up, and clearly communicating your feelings and findings with your medical team is really in the best interest of patient safety. And that's what it comes down to. We all get excited. We all, kind of lose sight sometimes of when we're in situations and our communication can kind of dwindle off. But if you can kind of look back at the root of why you want to have that conversation, come in with clear, defined facts and data, and the ability to back up what you're saying is really, really important. And like I said, for the patient safety. And that's why we're nurses. We're here to help people. We're here to make sure that the care that we're providing is safe. And we are our patient's number one advocate. So the first step of that is communication. The next lesson and key finding that I've discovered is accountability. Holding ourselves accountable, holding our patients accountable, and holding our colleagues accountable. We all make mistakes in our daily lives. We're not perfect. We're not a computer. I mean, even computers make mistakes. They don't always work how we want them to. But, the smallest mistake, owning up to that, being accountable, and that accountability can be with telling the physician or telling the patient, or it might not even be something that affects the patient directly, but it can be just, hey, this happened. It didn't feel right. I probably should have handled it a different way, but this is what I did and why I did it. And ultimately, that leads to changes in healthcare to make sure that the safest care is delivered to the patient. So, I think back to when I was a newer nurse. I think NICU is when I learned majority of the most valuable lessons with taking accountability. So I remember walking into the back office where all of our doctors sit, and I made a very small mistake. To this day, I don't really remember what that mistake was, but I went back there and I was in tears. I felt so bad with what happened. And it must have not have been something that even directly affected the patient. It might have been, hey, I accidentally told them this result when I shouldn't have. I'm just kind of creating my own story right now. But the key fact of that is I was so scared and so upset that I made this mistake. And when I went back to tell the doctor, he didn't care. It's not that he didn't care to the fact that, oh, it doesn't matter, but just, hey, we all make mistakes. It happens. But the most important thing is you own up to those mistakes and you don't do it again. A lot of times, if you look at what healthcare is, the changes that happen in healthcare come from mistakes that have been made. So if you remember that when you make a mistake, because you will, it's part of life, it's part of nature. You make mistakes in your everyday life as well as in your career. But when you own up to those, it ultimately impacts the future of healthcare and what can we do to decrease that space to make those mistakes. And when you make your first mistake and you have to tell on yourself, that is probably the hardest thing you will ever have to do. But once you have to do that once, the next time you do it and you own it and you truly know, darn it, I should have done that differently, or, oh gosh, I wish that wouldn't have happened. Owning up to that, it becomes easier and it becomes second nature. And that's why you just have to kind of dig deep and really know the purpose of why you're taking accountability for what happened. And the last thing, I think this is the most important to me, is empathy and compassion. I naturally am a very empathetic person. When someone cries, I cry. When someone is going through a difficult time, I literally feel myself taking on part of their burden on that. But not everyone's like that, and that's okay. Not everyone is empathetic as the next. So if you look at empathy as more compassion, it may be easier to handle those situations. So our nursing days are filled with a lot of happiness, but a lot of times, hopefully not a lot of times, but there are some difficult scenarios that we have to deal with. And that's where empathy and compassion really play into your nursing career. Just even the story that I told, the little thing of that baby not being able to go home that day. It doesn't mean they're not going to go home ever. It just was, they maybe needed a little bit more time. But entering that conversation, circling back to the first part of this, the communication, having some compassion and understanding of the emotions that may come with that conversation that I have to have with them can really show and lessen the disappointment on that family hearing the words of their baby not going home that day. So, just having that understanding of, this is going to be difficult to hear. I feel it. I understand it. I see you. And I am sorry that this is what you're having to hear today. You don't have to say those things, but just your kindness and the way you communicate and the compassion you have in your voice can ease that burden when delivering that difficult news. All of these things obviously apply to how we treat our patients and how we treat our patients' family, but this also goes back into how we treat each other when we're at work. I've said this before on previous episodes that our work family is our family because we spend so much time with these people. We didn't choose that. We didn't choose our unit based on, who worked there or who did I get along with the best. We don't get to choose who we work with every day. So just having that compassion, empathy, clear, effective communication with your colleagues can aid in your happiness at your job. We, as nurses, we feel that burden and that burnout sometimes, working. They say we only work 3 days a week and we have 4 off, but we all know as nurses that is not the case. Sometimes those shifts are 6 in a row and we're burnt out and it doesn't feel good. But if we remember these 3 lessons that maybe I've carry with me, you can carry with you. And that can help you even get through your workday with maybe some difficult people that you have to work with. It's okay. We're not all the same. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And that's okay. But as long as we treat each other professionally, respectfully, and I stay true to these 3 lessons, I know I can get through my day, and on my days off, I recoup with still allowing these 3 things to affect my everyday life can really just take a lot of stress and burden off of you. I wanted to go over this because it's been rough out there. And I think we've talked about that. COVID has changed a lot. And I know it's annoying to continue to talk about that, but it really has. And it's really changed healthcare. And me personally, I'm feeling the burden of the burnout. And that has forced me to look inside myself. And I think that's why I've been asked that question so much recently, is what my passion is, because I'm starting to lose the sparkle in my eyes with other people. And my friends are seeing that. And even strangers are seeing that. So I'm glad I'm being asked those questions, because it's forcing me to dig deep, realize why I'm here, why I'm so passionate about nursing, and why I love my job, and how being a nurse has really changed my life. Like I said, I was this shy, introverted little kid who is now an adult who will try to make anyone feeling the way I used to feel the way that I feel now. So I hope that you can take something away from this, especially newer nurses entering the bedside for the first time. You're going to feel all the things that I have said. But if you can maybe take these 3 things and implement that into your first few months at the bedside, I think it will really help to create a happy nursing career for yourself. Thank you for tuning in to Nursing Uncharted. You can learn more about this episode and our show on our website at amnhealthcare.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find show updates and nursing opportunities on our Instagram at AMN Nurse. Special thanks to AMN Healthcare for making this show possible.